Welcome, dear friends, to tonight's bedtime story. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the stars above guide you into dreams. Each story is filled with magic, kindness, and wonder. Now, snuggle in and let's begin. Tonight's story, The Selfish Giant, is about a giant who builds a tall wall to keep children out of his beautiful garden. But without their laughter, his garden grows cold and lonely. Let's discover how kindness can bring back the warmth of spring. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful garden filled with green grass, sweet-smelling flowers, and tall fruit trees. Every afternoon, children from the village would play there after school. They ran and laughed, climbed the trees, and filled the garden with happiness. The garden loved the children, and the children loved the garden. But one day, a great giant came home. He had been away for 7 long years, visiting his friend, the Cornish ogre. When he saw the children playing, he shouted in a deep, booming voice, "What are you doing here? This is my garden. Go away!" The children were frightened and ran off at once. The selfish giant frowned. "No one shall play here but me," he said. He built a tall stone wall all around the garden and hung a sign that read, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." The poor children now had no place to play. They wandered the streets sadly, missing the green grass and the shady trees. Without the laughter of the children, the garden grew quiet and cold. The flowers and trees were lonely. When spring came to every other garden, the giant's garden stayed frozen. The frost painted the trees silver, the hail rattled the windows, and the north wind roared through the chimneys. The selfish giant did not understand. "Why won't spring come here?" he grumbled. Day after day, snow fell and covered the garden. No birds sang, no flowers bloomed, and no sunshine warmed the air. The giant looked out at the white, empty garden and felt very lonely. "I wish spring would come," he sighed. But spring never came, because the children never came. Then one morning, the giant woke to a sweet sound he hadn't heard in years, the singing of a bird. He opened his window and smelled the scent of flowers drifting in the air. "Spring has come at last," he cried, and he ran outside to see. The giant could not believe his eyes. Through a small hole in the wall, the children had crept back into the garden. Everywhere, trees were blooming with pink and white blossoms. Birds were singing, butterflies fluttered, and the children were laughing and playing again. The garden was alive with joy. But in one corner, it was still winter. A little boy stood there, crying. He was too small to climb the tall tree, and its branches were bare and covered with snow. The giant's heart softened. "How selfish I have been," he whispered. "Now I know why my garden was cold. It was because I kept the children away." The giant walked quietly over to the little boy. The children grew afraid and ran away, but the little boy did not see him coming. Gently, the giant lifted the child and placed him on the tree's lowest branch. At once, the tree burst into life. Green leaves spread, Flowers bloomed and birds began to sing. The little boy smiled and hugged the giant's neck. The giant laughed with happiness. "It is your garden now, dear children," he said. He took his axe and knocked down the tall wall that had kept them out. From that day on, the children played freely, and the garden was the most beautiful in all the land. The giant played with them every afternoon, laughing and sharing in their games. But the little boy the giant had helped was never seen again. The giant looked for him every day. "Where is my dear friend?" he asked, but no one knew. The giant loved all the children, but he loved that boy most of all, for he had given him a kiss. Years passed. The giant grew old and tired. He could no longer run and play, but he sat in a big chair and watched the children play in the sunshine. "My garden is beautiful," he said softly, "but the children are the most beautiful of all." The children loved the old giant too, and would bring him flowers to make him smile. One afternoon, the giant woke from a nap and rubbed his eyes. In the farthest corner of the garden stood a tree covered in golden leaves and silver fruit, a tree he had never seen before. And beneath it stood the little boy he had longed to see. His heart filled with joy, and he hurried as fast as his old legs could carry him. When the giant came closer, his smile faded. The little boy's hands and feet had small, shining wounds. The giant trembled and said, "Who has hurt you? Tell me, and I will take my great axe and punish them." The little boy smiled gently. "These are the marks of love," he said softly. "Once you let me play in your garden. Today you shall come with me to mine, which is in paradise." The giant's heart filled with peace. The boy took his hand, and together they walked beneath the golden tree. Later that afternoon, when the children came running to play, they found the giant lying beneath the tree, covered in white blossoms that had gently fallen like snow. His face looked happy and kind. And so the giant learned that a garden without children is a garden without spring. With that, our story comes to an end. May your dreams be filled with kindness and wonder. Good night, little dreamers. Until next time, sweet dreams under the stars.